Steve Brunner will be absent. Sean Woodward.
Here.
Fred Mogle.
Here.
Jen Runner. Here. Bill James.
Here. Item 3, public comment regarding anything that may come before the committee today. Is there any public comment today? Name and address, please.
It's Gregory Krutayevs, 341 Cardinal Road, Wyomissing. Please start first.
Number 1?
Yes, number.
I'm not sure why it's not letting me open them because I did the other day. I'm not sure why it's not working because both Melissa and I could open them last week. And the only alternative suggestion I have is I can attempt to send this out to the committee that they can watch the videos after the fact.
Okay.
Every time we have the same problem.
It's unfortunate. I was promised to do the show. I can tell you, the first video shows Mr. Cullen brings his, the whole thing is about the change you have to think about for the Borough Code part, Chapter 2, Animals, Part 3. The suggestion is to remove the provision that no owner can allow his dogs or cats defecate and or urinate in public property in Wyomissing. It's a very important thing. Why? My neighbor, Mr. Cullen, is using it as a weapon. He bought one dog, then another dog, and he's walking around allowing it to clean poo on right of way, which is public property. And he destroyed my neighbor's patch, which belongs to 1514 Old Wyomissing Road. The first video showed, you will see it when the email will come to you. When he is allowing his dogs to get to this property, he's looking around, nobody is saying, okay, good. The dog, one dog is defecating, then it scratches the land. Second thing, probably can show the plan. Can you?
I'm not sure why none of the attachments.
So the second is a plan from 2020. When I was here telling about his behavior in 2020, when he's only walking his dogs from his property, next to my property, next to this 1514 property, next to Adrian Judge's property, and coming back. He is leaving his feces or crumbles of his feces or liquid feces of his puppy and urine of course, everywhere. And it is a weapon. He's using it as a weapon. The provision that you want to expel is prohibiting such behavior. If you take it out, we can complain, nothing can happen to stop it. The third picture shows him sitting in front of my driveway with his puppy on the pavement at the corner of my driveway, and he's waiting it to poo and pee because it is legal. He thinks it is legal. And the fourth video shows the land destroyed at 1514, as I told you, where the whole stretch of land of public walkway, public right-of-way is grid, but the last 8 or 10 feet is totally destroyed by his dogs. This is his dog's restroom. Fourth photo shows his June 23, 2024. His walk back across my right of way, which is 8 feet, but most of the borough is 12 feet. So such people can bring the dogs and cats, whatever, to any property, almost any property in the borough, and let it do whatever he wants, 3 times a day, 24 hours a day, whatever. You will suffer if you have such a neighbor as I have. Last video on July 15 shows when I didn't see him. My cameras were not trained with this area because I didn't think he's doing it. He went to my land, let the dog poo. When I confronted him to ask him to leave, the other dog is peeing in the camera, you'll see it. And he is attempting to pick up from the grass whatever was left there. Only when I came, before I came, he didn't attempt to pick it up. He knows that I'm cutting weeds by hand. I am kneeling, I'm doing ordinance by hand, and he wants me to touch it. That's why he's doing it. Okay, my thoughts. The argument of the board is this revision is not enforceable. Why? Probably because it's everywhere, and you can't put the police everywhere. But
30 seconds, sir.
I couldn't tell because there were some attempts to retrieve what I wanted to show. I want 2 more minutes, please. So, it is enforceable. The last thing, the last episode, which you cannot see now, he got a notice of violation. And he's not coming anymore. It works. It really works. If you take it out, there will be no notice of violation, and all of us will suffer, and I will suffer.
Thank you, it's 5 minutes, sit down, sir.
It's
Anyone
not
else?
fair. It's not fair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. J, do you have a comment? on
Yes,
the
I have a
video?
comment. First of all, I want to protest the fact that our videos are never shown. Every time there is some reason given, we were asked to give videos 3 work days ahead so that the staff can process them. Where is the staff processing? This is just hardship that you put on showing proof. Deliberate. Every time we do this, oh, this doesn't work, sound doesn't work, this doesn't, something else doesn't work. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed amendments to the ordinance regulating animal defecation and urination in the borough. This issue is not just a matter of public cleanliness. It has real implications for the dignity and well-being of residents like myself, my neighbors, who have been directly targeted by abusive behavior. For several years now, my family and I, along with our neighbors who are also immigrants, have been subjected to harassment by our neighbor from 47 Cardinal Road, who consistently brings his dogs to urinate and defecate on our properties. This is not a one-time or accidental occurrence. This person deliberately crosses the street on a daily basis to avoid using his own lawn, choosing instead to target ours. I have personally documented this behavior with numerous videos and pictures which I have shared in past public comments. I want to be clear, I'm not the only one who has raised concerns about this issue. My neighbor, Mr. Kratoyarski, was told by the borough manager that the ordinance is not enforced because it's difficult to enforce. But I asked, why should we accept this answer? Just because the ordinance isn't enforced regularly doesn't mean it should be disregarded. We have many laws that aren't enforced every day, but they exist to deter unacceptable behavior and protect our community. Moreover, we should not be required to provide extensive evidence of visible intent for the police to take action. The fact that we have had to gather this evidence and repeatedly file complaints only to see no enforcement speaks volumes. This has been going on for years, and to my knowledge, no action has been taken against this individual. Why? Why has been no enforcement despite the clear and repeated violations? I believe the answer lies in deeper, more troubling issue. It is my belief that this inaction is not just about the difficulty of enforcement. It's about the reluctance to enforce the rules when the victims are people like us, immigrants who are seen as outsiders. The fact that the borough is even considering removing or weakening this ordinance feels like an attempt to legitimize this kind of targeted harassment. It sends a message that our concerns, our dignity, and our right to live in peace are not valued. We don't have officers stationed on every mile of every road all the times, but the speed limit is there to curb dangerous driving. It is enforced when necessary to prevent abuses and protect public safety. Would we argue to remove the speed limits just because they are challenging to enforce 24/7? Absolutely not. Or consider the laws against bank robbery. We don't make bank robbery legal just because it's difficult to prevent every instance. We keep such laws in place because they set the standard for what is unacceptable in our society. They give law enforcement the authority to act when those standards are violated. The ordinance in question serves a similar purpose. It establishes a baseline of respect and consideration among neighbors. It is a tool we need to protect residents from those who would exploit a lack of enforcement to create a nuisance or worse, to engage in targeted harassment. If this ordinance is weakened or removed, it will embolden Mr. Cullen to continue this practice. It will send a message that such behavior is acceptable and that the borough supports it. We cannot allow that to happen. I urge this committee to consider the real impact of this decision. This is not just about animal control, it's about whether we allow our community to be a place where everyone, regardless of their background, is treated with respect and dignity. Please do not let this ordinance be changed. Excuse me.
30 seconds, sir.
Yeah, it's okay, I'm done. To enable further harassment and discrimination. I'm gonna have a heart attack one day.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, move on to item 5, zoning violations. Any codes report? I'm sorry, well, there's really nothing to do here,
Correct.
Is there anything to add?
No, other than,
McCarthy's reviewing it?
yes. Yes.
Okay. And we have a timeline on when that will?
Jim had it. Jim said that Craig Ramos called him.
Said the appeal hearing be rescheduled for August. August is almost over.
Or September.
Yeah, I understand that part. Every year that happens.
Yes.
Anything further?
On item number 4.
4? No, okay. 5, codes report.
I think the codes report is pretty self-explanatory unless anybody had follow-up questions. I will tell you there is a pending NOV that Jeff Hogue from Kraft's office sent to Michelle Mayfield this morning to review for the Berkshire Mall. It's both building code and property maintenance, and it is pretty extensive. Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I have not gotten to talk to him today. I came back from vacation. So
I meant about the report specifically.
Yeah, no.
So it seemed to me, from my recollection, there were 3 instances where people from the borough went to the mall and looking at this wall at the Bonton that they thought was in danger of falling down. 3 times they determined it wasn't, and then they were gonna take an engineer over. Did that engineer ever go there?
The mall was required to obtain a structural engineer to do an assessment of the Bonton, which we got that report last December. That's not the issue. The issue is the general interior conditions of the Bonton. Council approved last week having Spot Stevens and McCoy perform air quality testing because of concerns that while the Bonton itself is condemned and not available for the public to enter, the odor and air from that space is coming into the publicly accessible areas, so we are concerned about general public safety
Because they had roof
Yeah.
leaks.
that they are not fixing.
Some mold issues, I recall.
Correct. Graffiti, so clearly unwanted people are getting into a space that should be condemned.
We have 2 draft ordinances, I believe. First one is having to do with amendment to the animals.
The first one's related to feral cats.
Cats at large,
Yes.
not to be confused with large cats.
I know Jana had provided some comment when we last discussed this, and I believe her black-lined version was included as to the things that she was suggesting be changed. For what it's worth, Chris and I went back and forth through those comments, and some of Jenna, what you were proposing be taken out from the original draft was related to domesticated cats, and Chris and I both feel domesticated cats can be an issue too, depending what someone's doing with them or not doing with them, which is why we prefer to leave that in. So I don't know if anybody has further question or comment on the draft.
Draft in a form, Chris, that's
Yeah,
move
this,
forward to advertise.
what you have in front of you, The clean copy is what I would recommend that the committee consider recommending to council. What it, essentially does is to require someone to participate in a trap
TVNR.
litter release program in order to be authorized to feed feral cats. And it also has some regulations about domestic cats, which people allow to wander through the neighborhood. So we have a category of cat called stray cat. A stray cat is a domesticated cat, not a feral cat that the owner allows to wander. And there's a burden on the owner of such a cat to have it neutered and immunized, and to have it, have an ear clip to identify it as being a neutered and immunized cat, and to also clean up after the cat. So I think those are all good improvements to the existing regulations.
So we're asking homeowners to tip the cat's ear if they want it to be out, indoor, outdoor.
Correct.
That's the point as well.
And if they are tipped, then they can roam at their free will?
The owner has that.
Well, if they're tipped, we know they're neutered, so they're not gonna help breed more,
But
but.
I mean, the feral cat specifically, if you were a feral cat caretaker, you were required to apply for a permit effectively from the borough and show paperwork that you TVNR'd all the cats within your colony.
You know my issue, and
Yes.
now on Saturday, we just graduated to 3 kittens, besides the big cats are now roaming around my property.
So if there is an issue of violation here, how does one report that and to whom? Roads?
Yeah, I mean, I know Kraft has been getting in the past couple of months, this issue seems to have blown up at the rate of kittens being born.
Can I ask, are you getting any reports from the hills on feral cats? Or are they just going on our neighborhood site and complaining about the lawsuit?
I'm not aware of any
I don't think
hills.
there's anything yet.
Yeah, I
So
saw
there's
one from the other day.
yeah, there's many complaints in the neighborhood page and nothing's being done about it with that, but I'm like, and they're asking for numbers and reports and how many feral cats there are in Wyomissing, is it increasing? I'm like, you just go to Borough Hall, come to the meeting today, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say them actually reporting it to the proper
Yeah.
channels.
It's easier to just complain on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the hills, and I will, I guess, try and talk to them and tell them to please report to you, so you can be addressed. I don't know.
So you're happy, Chris, the way this is
Yeah.
now drafted?
That we said.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. There's a motion to have the animals, chapter 2 of the Borough Code animals added to part 6, cats at large, for advertisement and subsequent adoption. Is there a second to that motion?
second,
Can I ask just a quick question?
Sure.
Under odors and defecation, number 2, it says no feral cat caregiver having possession, custody, or control of a feral cat shall allow them to defecate, blah, 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 in public. What does that mean, like,
Jack, what section are
possession,
you
custody?
referring to?
607, odors, defecation. It says no owner of a non-feral cat, and I understand them being responsible for not allowing their cats to defecate publicly anywhere. But a feral cat caregiver, I thought we discussed, can't really control where this feral cat goes. And what does,
Okay, well, the paragraph 1 says, and I'll only talk about feral cat caregivers. Feral cat caregiver has to remove accumulations of cat waste on their own property.
Right,
So if they are feeding feral cats at their property, they have to clean up.
right.
So that's paragraph 1. And then paragraph 2 says that the feral cat giver shall not allow the cat to defecate upon any public property or in a building frequented by the public or upon private property other than the property of the owner or feral cat caregiver. So that is a challenge. That would be, again, a complaint situation, and it would be a challenge to enforce. But that's.
Well, but how are you gonna get people to become feral cat caregivers to make sure they're trapped and they're, released? And then what we want is we want the feral cats in the community to not be able to have kids. We can't get rid of them. So how is this person who's applied for this position gonna stop this cat from roaming and doing its business wherever it wants?
The last time, we talked about it discouraging people from participating
Participating in the program.
in the program, which is not what we want. So by making them responsible, basically, for the feces of these stray cats, nobody in the right mind would do it.
So an owner of a non-feral cat who you let outside, well, you shouldn't be able, you really should keep them indoors. So you can enforce this for somebody who has a stray cat, who just, it's their cat. But an actual feral cat is not going to come into your home, is not going to want to be controlled. They're wild animals.
Okay, so would you propose to revise the draft ordinance to remove the references to feral cat caregivers in section 607, 2
and
3? So, if that is the policy outcome that you would like, then I would suggest that you make a motion to revise those 2 paragraphs.
Which the basis would be that you're only responsible for the feral cat on your property.
Right, and non-feral cat owners, people who have stray cats and let them roam around the neighborhood, should not be technically, now I understand that's gonna be difficult to enforce, fine, but it should be in there. But to try and enforce, to say this to a feral, anybody who wants to be a feral cat caregiver is gonna look at the guidelines, is gonna look at what they have to partake in, and if they see this, they're gonna say, I can't watch this feral cat go around the neighborhood and pick up its business. Right, so I don't think they should be responsible for this situation. Yes, we know it's a problem, but the way to get the problem semi-under control is to have these feral cat caregivers, trap, neuter, release, make sure we're lessening the population by not having
But if they
kittens
don't, if they
over and
don't
over
trap
again.
them and get them neutered, then,
She wants them to be trapped.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want the feral cat giver, that's a part of the process, is to trap, neuter, release. But if you trap, neuter, release, now that you've released it back into the community, you shouldn't be responsible for picking up its poop on a neighbor's backyard 4 doors down, because you don't have total control of that cat. It's still a wild animal. You're not
Okay.
able to,
Personally, I'm gonna start calling my neighbor and tell him to come over and clean it up.
So can I,
Right, but
As
that's.
soon-
yeah, but
as
they're
soon as
not,
this
but
becomes
they're not
enforced.
feral cat caregivers.
They're
They
not
have not applied for the
participating.
Well, there's one that
participation
has
program.
a ding in the ear.
That doesn't mean they're a feral cat caregiver.
Yeah, they still haven't
You have to
applied for a
apply the
permit.
position. You're not allowed to feed it unless you've applied for the permit, so what they're doing with this ordinance, what they're doing is against code.
Yes.
They are not allowed to feed feral cats unless they've applied for this feral cat caregiver position, and they have to follow a bunch of guidelines. The woman who's on Barfield has been doing like a great job,
Yes.
even though we didn't have the ordinance in place. This woman is not doing a great job. This ordinance will prevent her from feeding them, and hopefully they'll dissipate to someplace else if they're not
So,
getting food.
Jen, you're making a motion to
Yes.
change the motion that's on the table to eliminate feral cat caregiver from 607, 2 and 3.
Correct.
can I ask a question?
Well, you probably should have a second on the motion.
But let me rescind my motion first.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let me rescind my motion and then I'll second
No, we need a
yours.
second, you're second, okay, no.
I just wanna know, are we discriminating against dogs and cats? Because if the cat can't do something on private property or public property, why is this dog issue an issue? Should they be dogs and cats, or discriminate against cats or dogs, or how's this work?
I don't think they're protected
There's-
by equal
I
protection.
believe there's an ordinance that says you have to clean up after your dog.
Correct, and we don't have a feral dog
Right,
program.
so if you don't clean up after your cat,
Isn't that the next?
then that's a no-no. If you don't keep up after your dog, that should be a no-no.
It is.
Right.
It is.
But I thought this earlier public comment thing was.
No.
Read
I-
the ordinances.
I will clarify when we get to the next topic, the
Okay.
issue
We need
with
to
the
have a
other
section.
ordinance.
Feral dogs.
We don't have a feral dog.
And I'll be in my office if we did.
Starting to lose control, we've got a long agenda, there's a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance, recommend for advertising endorsement as modified by Jed's motion to eliminate feral cat giver from section 6072 and section 6073. There's a motion and there's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None ayes have it. Get that to council for approval for advertising. The next is a draft ordinance to amend regulations for animal urination, defecation, in the public right of way on borough-owned properties.
I asked Chris to draft this based off of, not just a conversation with Mr. Krudiarski, but, which I'd like to clarify, my comment was not that it's per se difficult. That section of the ordinance has never been enforced, because effectively, the way the ordinance reads now, if you ever walk your dog anywhere in the borough and it pees in the parklands, or anywhere other than the property of the dog's owner, you are in violation of the code. I don't know any place, I mean, I'm a dog owner, I've lived in multiple areas, I don't know of any place that restricts animal urination specific for dogs when they're being walked in public. I know of multiple places that restrict animal dog defecation in public if the owner does not remove the feces. So the change I asked Chris to make to the ordinance was to remove the urination from public property, meaning if you are walking your dog and it urinates in the planting strip, if you're in the parklands and it urinates in the grass, that is not a code violation. If your animal defecates effectively anywhere other than your private property, you are required to remove it. That is not being changed. In terms of the videos that Mr. Krudiarski had sent to me about a month and a half, 2 months ago with his original complaint about his neighbor, nothing in those videos showed the animal was actually on Mr. Krudiarski's private property. The right-of-way extends 8 feet beyond the curb face on Cardinal Road. It is also one of the unusual streets that it does not have a planting strip or a public sidewalk. But that area from the edge of the curb 8 feet in towards every property on that street is not private property, it's public property. So with that said, an enforcement notice was sent to the offending neighbor in question about urination and defecation on private property other than that of the animal's owner. But I personally think this is a common sense adjustment to revise an ordinance so that the language reflects how the ordinance is actually being enforced, not leaving language on the books that, to the best of my knowledge, no one has ever enforced,
And also, I want to point out the last sentence of section 1 of the draft ordinance reads as follows: urination by animals in front of residential structures other than the property of the owner of such animal shall be allowed only within the planting strip between the curb and sidewalk. What that means, in my opinion, if this language is included in the ordinance and adopted by council, would be that it would be a violation of the ordinance to have your dog pee on your neighbor's property unless that neighbor has a sidewalk, a public sidewalk, and then the dog would be allowed to urinate in the planting strip. So, I think this addresses the concerns that were raised in the public comment period about dog urination.
So let me ask you a question. All over Birdland, there's no sidewalks. So just explain that to me, because if I cut that grass and some dog is peeing on my public property, which
Okay,
I
so
cut,
in Birdland, they have to pee in the street
they do.
or on the owner's
That's
property.
not what the ordinance says.
That's not realistic.
That's not what that says.
It's really not realistic.
Well, then, I mean, again, we need
Bird-
to have a practical discussion about what's achievable.
Birdland's no different, Chris, that the right of way extends beyond the curb base, and it differs by street, averages probably 10 to 12 feet, but effectively, everyone that lives on, say, Meadowlark thinks that first 10 feet between their rolled curb and their house is part of their private property, when in effect, it is not. It's public.
Yeah, but we
Well,
maintain
it's private property subject to a public right of way.
Correct.
So do you need to revise that sentence to add comma or in the right of way?
I'm sorry.
Does that sentence need to be revised so that urination is permitted in the right of way?
That's, Chris and I went back and forth before the meeting on this. I was gonna leave it a little simple as to, well, let me pull up the exact language that I sent him.
I don't like the way it reads now.
No.
I was going,
When it boils down to it, a dog is going to urinate on grass, period, okay? Ocean, go down to the shore, okay? My own dog, I've had 3, okay? Each one, I had a difficult time getting to urinate on non-gravel or pebble areas, okay? He found some grass around a tree and boom,
across
would
the
go.
street every day.
Yes, unfortunately, at times, depending on the dog, it may burn the grass from the acid.
Yes.
But after a few rains, the grass comes back and there's no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I'm just saying that as written,
yes,
this would require dogs to defecate in the owner's, pee in the owner's lawn or on the street,
so
but not in the right of way. I think the right of way's gotta be added.
Jana, my proposed suggestion was to take that whole last sentence out and put urination by animals is prohibited on private property other than the private property of the owner of the animal.
Yeah, because
is
the
fine.
the other's
Yeah.
not private property.
So that way,
Yeah. That's
Then
better.
it's clear.
Or
So the
property
right of
subject
ways
to
are
a
okay.
public right of way.
yeah,
So that's, because we're gonna get those calls, so I
Yeah.
wanna be clear. You're talking the
The-
planting strips, and then as I understand it, on the other side of the sidewalk, there's still a few feet of right of way, correct?
depends on the street.
Typically,
It's different on every street.
But there's still some.
So use Meadowlark as the example, because I live on Meadowlark. You're saying from the street to 10 to 12 feet
Correct.
in is public right of way.
Correct.
Anybody can
And
pee
so
and poop
anywhere
there.
within that 10 to 12 feet would be acceptable.
Yes.
So,
They still have to pick it
The
up.
only place it is being prohibited is on private property other than that of the animal's owner. So everywhere else is
So
allowed.
what, like Sturbridge, I walk my dog on Sturbridge.
One
What
at
are
a
those
time,
houses
please.
on Sturbridge? Just so because we're gonna get those calls, so is that
can
3
I
feet?
go and pee
Or
my
is that-
dog at
what is
Mr.
that?
James over there?
Sorry, you were
So if
interrupted by
I
someone
walk my
behind me.
dog down Sturbridge, alright, there's a planting strip, cause there's sidewalks, but then there's also right of way in their front yards. So what is it, it's generally about 3 feet is what I was the understanding.
No, that's, I mean, if you look at appendix A of the zoning ordinance, every street in the borough is listed as well as the distance. The street right of way extends beyond the curb face and it differs for every street.
Why don't we
So
use
it's-
that term, why don't we say within the public right of way?
Well,
Then
the
people
chief-
won't be surprised, they won't expect to have a dog on the first street. Well, I understand.
No.
Everyone seems to know what the public right of way is, and that's the planting strip.
Well, it's planning strip, but it could be beyond that. When there's no sidewalks, it could be beyond sidewalks and other
It
streets.
varies street to street.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that
And
we
you
wouldn't
own the
have,
property subject to the right of way.
it would seem to me that we wouldn't have a problem with this issue if it wasn't for one dog in Wyomissing.
2 dogs.
Or 2 dogs that are doing what 2 dogs are doing. And when you go and do the cat thing, you really can change the whole ordinance. Everybody in Birdland, when they find out that the 10 feet they've been mowing is now subject to
We
dogs.
mow our right away even though we have sidewalks.
Oh, I understand.
You still have to get your
If you,
name.
you do, but if people over there, and they don't have sidewalks for starters, so those dogs are gonna be there or not, and if you're gonna change the ordinance to say you can do this there, then people are saying, hey, maybe they could have done it before, but they're not, but now all of a sudden, everybody's gonna say, let's go take my dog in this right of way in Birdland, and they're gonna say,
And
what
burn the
is that
neighbor's
for?
grass.
Are you?
All right, Mr.
Yes.
J, we don't need your side comments, please. We have
Yeah.
enough comments going on here.
I mean, I don't think the chief needs to be responding to all these situations, but right now he's not. But once you make up this ordinance thing here, that's when it's all gonna hit the fan.
Actually, no, I would argue it's the opposite. The way it reads now, technically, we should be citing anybody that walks their dog,
Yeah,
whose
but
dog is
you have to worry about it, cause nobody does.
correct. But I don't think changing the ordinance and taking out the language that doesn't make common sense is going to stir the average person to go out and start doing something they're not already
So
doing.
my question is, there's no reason to do anything with this ordinance, cause nobody's complaining about it.
Well, yes, I received a complaint it's not being enforced, and my
That's
point
only
was,
one situation, and it's been going on in this borough for 2 years, for 2 projects, for 2 people that live there, and there's no reason to change the world because 2 people are having issues.
I will let you know that several people in Wyomissing Hills are having issues with dogs defecation not being picked up,
Where,
all over Wyomissing
no,
Hills.
but where's the dog dropping his droppings, not.
Within the public right of way. Maybe on their yard side, maybe on the
Maybe we
side,
should
you know, the
start
street side of the sidewalk,
This
but
is-
it's
this
in
only
front
has
of
to
people's
do with-
houses.
Well, we agree.
It's
This is
happening
only
all over the
urination,
place.
not defecation.
They're just not bringing it to Borough Hall, they're bringing it to the neighborhood website. and putting it
We
there.
agree.
They don't bring it to the hall.
we get those complaints too.
Yeah, like nobody just, people, if people, no matter what, people are gonna let their dog do what they want their dog to do, and they're gonna clean it up if they want to, and they're not gonna clean it up if they don't. But changing the wording, I think clears some things up.
I think it does too.
It's an
I think it should be only allowed within the public right of way, period.
Exactly.
The urination.
Yeah, the urination part.
And the feces would continue to be prohibited everywhere,
Yeah.
unless they
You
clean it
can't
up.
stop, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, be responsible and clean up after your dog.
Right, and most people do.
Yes, most people do.
Yeah, 'cause,
tried, good
I mean,
luck.
one of the things
Within the right of way.
about
Yeah.
the current regulation is basically you're supposed to diaper your dog because the dog is not allowed to defecate, period. The modification would be to require cleanup, which I think is a reasonable enforcement. Okay, so what I'm hearing from the discussion is that we would go with the language that we already have, modifying how we would treat defecation to require cleanup and not to prohibit defecation, and as to urination, to prohibit it on private property beyond the right of way of the street. And that would be
Enough is
the
already
only
there.
regulation.
I don't see.
Stop and stop.
Clean up.
We're
is
not part of
already
this
there.
meeting, sir.
He is over.
We're trying to get some business done, please.
Thank you.
Do you hear Chris's analysis? Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So
Any
how
further
about,
discussion?
you know, I've owned multiple properties for almost 50 years, and I never cared if any dog urinated on my property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
never
had an issue.
What's the big deal? I don't get it, but, and I don't see how you're gonna enforce it, and,
Well, it's gonna be difficult,
but whatever, it makes everybody happy.
but I think you have to have a law that makes sense on the books. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it. Okay, it's ready for advertisement as amended, go for Borough Council in September. Okay, we're all the way up to item 6.
Or
Ooh.
speed.
North and Oley Pump Station. Looks like everything is moving ahead.
Do we have a revised, EDU calculation for,
I asked Jim for that last week, but I've not actually seen anything.
okay.
Nothing new to report from McCarthy?
Nothing, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 7, Western Berks.
Budgeting process for next year has begun. As Chip and Matt kind of discussed with you last month, water sales continue to be a huge problem. Yeah,
We're going down.
it's still going down. It's not quite as bad, but it's still tends to be lower than it has been. So we're not expecting it to level off anytime soon, unfortunately. So yeah, the rate hikes are coming.
Okay, I know that we still have a discussion on the table about cost share for the RAWA River crossing. That's never been resolved, is that?
I thought that was taken care of.
Well, the cost sharing for the repair that was done is finished. But the issue is ongoing responsibility, and I've had some discussions with Ed Stock, but I don't think it's a high priority for RAWA to resolve. So,
It's the ownership of that same pipe though.
well, we know who owns it, RAWA owns it. It's just a matter of, addressing maintenance and having some assurance about maintenance, and if it breaks again, who's gonna pay for it? That's the issue. So I'm gonna continue to try to get a proposal from that stuff.
If there's a catastrophic failure with our water supply in Berkshire Heights, can that be used now? I mean, is it,
Right now it can.
it can, okay.
Isn't there an issue about the pump station for that pipe, related to that pipe?
That, there's no pumping for that.
Well,
pipe.
there's an issue with the valve.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. And that would be covered by your discussions.
It could be.
Those valves weren't replaced as part of the repair?
Isn't that definitely a,
But moving
Well,
forward,
as Jim has
who's
described,
responsible
the
for turning, checking, shutting off?
valve at the connection with RAWA doesn't work. So you actually use the valve.
We use a valve further downstream.
and that, is that in the borough then?
That is over at the Stoltzfus house, yes.
That'd be hard to sell to get them to buy into them. A valve that doesn't work is not a valve. It's what I can do. Okay,
What is it?
nothing. It's a pipe. All right,
Before we move on from this though, there's very little on water in the agenda, but I just want to bring two things to your attention. The project that we already awarded for the water improvement, Old Mill Road from Museum to Oriole, and Oriole Road from Old Mill to Far. It's been awarded. We need to have a pre-construction meeting, but that should start, I'm guessing, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So there'll be some traffic issues.
it's water management.
Water main replacement, yes. And just an FYI, tomorrow, the local DEP sanitarian, is their title, is coming over for a audit of our paperwork and our interconnections and things. We should pass. I don't have any fear of that.
Is there any way, going back to your first issue, is there any way to get notice out to people?
We will, when we know a firm start date.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Because that can be highly disruptive in that area. All right, 8, sanitary sewer issues, Berkshire Boulevard Pump Station.
Work is ongoing there. They just delivered and installed the backup generator last week, which was good. Ironically, we had an issue with our old generator didn't work the day before. They came with the new one because the power outage was a little bit of an issue. But they have it's getting down to the nitty gritty. They have to do some demolition on the old pump station building, some fencing, but it's 90% complete at this point.
And is there additional monies due for this cleanup work, finishing up work?
Oh, yeah, there'll be probably one or two more payment applications.
And an estimated time of completion before the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay, let's add that to the agenda. We'll hold you to that, Jim.
All right.
West Lawn Interceptor, Jim. That's done.
Jim's office is still, I guess, tweaking the drawings and specifications. That'll be bid sometime in the spring for next summer construction. There was one thing, hold on a minute. Is it the next one?
The interceptor, West Lawn Interceptor runs from where to where, just so everyone's.
The West Lawn Interceptor, in its entirety, runs from West Lawn to, roughly the Conservancy building there on Old Mill, where it dumps into the Shillington Interceptor. But the portion that we're replacing is just on the west side of Cambridge Avenue to that Shillington manhole on Old Mill Road. Spring Township is doing their pipe work, as you know now, and they are going to be putting in a portion of the West Lawn Interceptor, because it just makes sense while they're in that same area to do that. And is that on here, Nick, where the price increased? I might have an old agenda.
See, third bullet point.
Do subdivided. I do have an old one. What do we got here?
Is that the 8,500?
Yeah.
Yeah.
8556.
Council had approved change order number 1, which was for Westcon to do that work, and Spring Township would bill us for it when it was complete. They now like to add 2 manholes to that work, which we pay for it now or we pay for it later, and that increase in price would be $8,556.69, which we would like action on.
Is that something that's within budget?
It'll be slightly above budget in the end.
Steve will love to hear that.
I'd like to mention, I was hoping Steve was gonna be here, because our old generator at the Berkshire Boulevard pump station, we're going to sell. And from what I understand, it's worth maybe $15,000, so.
It's not a new street sweeper, but it's something. Okay, so we need a motion to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $8,556.69 to have Wexcon replace the 2 manholes at the end of the new line that they're currently installing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None, ayes have it. That goes to Borough Council. D, the televising, Jim?
Yep, payment application number 2 for $25,391.20.
And that's going according to Hoyle, everything's good with that?
Yes, everything is good with that.
Okay. Need a motion to approve recommending the council payment for payment application number 2 in the amount of $25,391.20 to Sewer Specialty Services Company, Inc. Anyone? Jen, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it. Goes to Borough Council. The Woodland Road Sewer.
They started work today. I don't know if anybody drove over there, but it's quite an extensive detour there. They're hoping 2 to 3 weeks for completion of that project.
That means we won't see it on next month's agenda.
You might see a
Yeah.
payment application.
Other than that, definitely that. All right, number 9, streets, 24 street improvements, again, you're on, Mr. Bab.
Payment application number 4, $85,319.68. The only thing they have left to do is one small item, wherever they put in all the work is complete, but wherever they put in the handicap ramps, it was bad topsoil or something, and it's weed fields around those handicap ramps, so they're gonna put some more topsoil down and reseed those areas, but the project is basically complete.
Okay, is there a motion to recommend to council payment of pay application number 4 for construction master services LLC?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Payment of application of 85,319.68 is moving to Borough Council for their approval.
One other thing too, before we leave streets, is, I don't know if anybody noticed there, again, by the Conservancy, Old Wyomissing Road there, always flooded. There was a catch basin off in the grass, that would get clogged up instantly. And, our crews did a great job putting some curbing, a new inlet on the street, and we've had some rain since then, and it really worked, so,
Jim, I have a question about that. The road curbing kind of stops almost from part that drives south. There's like 30 feet that's dirt, and then you put the curbing in. How comes there's no curbing?
We, a year or two ago, I forget the address of the property, 1020 Old Mill. We had asked them, because it was a piece of missing curb, if they were interested in putting curbing in, if we would do this project, and they said no. So we did it without them putting curbing.
Well, that would have been on their dime.
Would have been on their dime, it's their property, yes.
And the fact that it's not there does not in any way inhibit the rain flow and the dispersal of the water from the street
And it's
level?
not good, but it doesn't affect it a lot.
As long as it's grass, it's all right.
Okay. It just looks stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Dick, can I ask, I brought up the handicap ramps on Terrace and Flowers a while ago. Like, it had been, Flowers is that, I think, alleyway
Yeah.
and not only are there not handicap ramps there's actual curbs. Like,
Yeah.
there's not even an old school, so I talked about if we could.
What happens there is, I don't recall that conversation.
That
But
was-
anyway.
Yeah, it was
off the
after
library.
Earth Day,
It
because
was
somebody
actually-
came up back and forth at Earth Day
Yeah.
and said, we need.
We generally replace handicap ramps that aren't to code as part of street work.
Right,
We could add those to next year's street work, even
Okay.
though we're not doing street work
yeah,
there.
it's not even that they're not,
And
they
this
said
is
there's
at
no
Terrace,
ramp there.
Terrace and Flower Lane.
Right.
Yeah, both sides is just a straight up curb, so if somebody's coming down there,
Yeah.
they're dead ended completely, if they need a ramp.
Okay, item B, PennDOT Stage Hill Road improvements.
The only update under here is that we received, about a month and a half ago, we got PennDOT's plans for how they were planning to detour traffic during construction. Chief Phillips, Chief Holmes, myself, Jim, Greg, Jim McCarthy, all sat down and kind of talked through that and put collective comments together, which TPD put into the memo that was included as part of your agenda items and also redlined the plan. So these were sent back to PennDOT about 3 weeks ago, and so far I've heard nothing back. So that's the only update for now.
Okay. I think we mentioned this several times before, but can our state representative help us move that matter
I
to
mean,
the top of the PennDOT pile?
they're both very much aware. They were at the public officials input meeting back in April. I actually had a meeting with Senator Schwank last week, and it was not about this specific topic, but I did remind her that this is still pending in our position.
Okay. We should invoke their sway when we can. C, 50/50 sidewalk project, that's.
We've awarded it,
Is it done though?
oh no, it hasn't started yet. Hopefully it'll start in the next 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
Could I revisit something in B, just to get
Sure.
it off my chest before it happens, and I'm thinking about it later? Our process regarding the roundabout, is a bit utilitarian considering the environment we live in, that I don't necessarily think we have to plant prize-winning roses in the circle, but we could do something that would add a little bit of, pizzazz to the section, because when we don't do it, we end up with a white strip in the island on Wyomissing Boulevard with 2 iron posts in there advertising dead Frank Sinatra's coming to town. So if we do nothing in the center of these islands, it's just gonna have leaves and dust, dirt. It's just gonna look like they didn't give a shit. So I'm just thinking, maybe we might want to get plastic flowers or something that would work, or something a little bit better than just concrete. Just my thoughts.
When I brought that up, I said it's gonna look like, we got a cache of missile silos going down State Mill Road. And it was the position of council at that time, not to have it, grassed, if you will, because it would be up to us to mow that grass, and it was felt that there was a safety hazard involved in doing so. I agree with you, Ron.
All right, well, that's
I
true.
think
Let's
it's
see.
Well, the difference with the new roundabouts is they have to be raised. They're not flat like they were. This new idea is that they're like, the circle in the middle is 3 feet tall or something, so you can't see across it. So yes, it was just gonna be a cement circle, and I pushed, and I'm hoping it's still going, that the sides of this circle will be stamped and stained to look like a nice stone wall, not just
I
skin
think
coated
that is
cement,
still
and I
in the
think that's
works.
the plan. So as you pull up to it, you're not gonna see the flat top of cement.
Yes,
But you
immediately
will
the
see
center is
stamped
raised.
stone, so it's stamped concrete, but it looks hopefully decorative enough.
Well, I would say even a statue of Rocky or a Roman
That'd be
statue
great.
in the middle, or something that would be maintenance-free.
Statue of you.
Plonk it there, or, yeah, you
Yeah.
could have
We'll
one on
put you up
Woodland.
there, Ron.
I'll take the one here, and you can have the one on Woodland.
Alright, sounds good.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Taylor
So
Swift.
it should be
She'll pay for it.
super horrific, but
That's,
I don't think she
that's not
likes
a
her likeness and imagery.
creative vision block.
that's the point of
That's
the
why it's
raised
raised.
thing, is
Yeah.
to create a vision block, cause you're not supposed to be able to see the people across. With the way, from a safety standpoint, I guess, this is
That's-
a new standard for
Yeah, that's not how
roundabouts.
they're designed out in 222.
No, and the
They're
trucks are
flat.
going right over them,
And
they're
they're going
totally
right
flat,
over.
yeah, yeah,
I got you. And that's to avoid that, I assume.
right.
Okay, we need to discuss Dauphin Avenue project. Yeah, what's new on that, Jim?
It's very minor. The 1200 and 1300 block need to have all their curb removed and replaced, using the, what do you call that, Rick? The slip form. On the 1400 block, the south side needs that same process. The north side, for whatever reason, is a different vintage or was placed differently and is okay. It may need some piecemeal replacement. And I was talking to Jim McCarthy about it. He brought up this thought that I never thought of. What if somebody on the 15 or 1600 block says, well, why don't you replace the curb on the whole street, because I'm paying $110 a foot, and because those blocks got a slip form, they're only paying $70 a foot. I never thought about that. We have a lot of time. Like I say, this is going to be a 2026 project to work through all these curb issues. But at this point, it looks like the 12 and 1300 blocks will be complete removal and slip form, along with the south side of the 1400 block. And they will get a different rate for their curbing than the other blocks.
Does the 15, 16, and I guess 17, 200 block need?
Very minor. As
Is any
you
of
get
that
further
roll-
west
is
you
any of that
get, the
roll?
better the curves get. The 1600 block and 1700 block are bold curve.
Is there a way to take this slip form side and the other side of the people that need it and just get an average cost for everything? So this is the cost of this, these are the costs for these houses of this,
get an average price per foot and then give that to the homeowner so that these people aren't being screwed over because we don't have to slip form it, but these people, you know what I mean?
It's possible, it would be a change, because now, like with this year's street work, when we put it out to bid, the contractors gave us a different price for curb on Reading Boulevard than they did on Darlin Drive. So we've always just passed along that cost, what the contractor has given us.
Yeah, I just feel like
But
on
that's a-
Dauphin,
we'd have-
because
that
it
would
is a
have to be a
specific
council-
situation,
That would
yeah,
have to be a council
that might
decision,
be-
we wanna do an
Yeah,
app.
but then you're penalizing the people at 12 and 1300
That's true.
block by having them subsidize
Yeah,
the other block.
I think it's a better course just to charge what it costs in front of the property for consistency purposes. And that's my recommendation, because I think we're gonna have
So
complaints.
talk to each other.
Plus,
And then they find out.
the cost to average in isn't gonna raise the cost that much. I don't think. You only do intermittent curves on one side of 1500 block. At 110 a foot versus 70, it's not gonna change if you average the linear foot.
Yeah, cause it's
It's not
like
gonna change that
80% of the whole curb project would be, there was 2.5 blocks.
Right, so the people who are paying a little bit more are paying a little bit more to see these other people
Yeah.
decent amount.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. When we get closer, let's look at it. And, we have to find out about the next two or three blocks. But I think that's a different situation, where it's a different answer. Item 10, Cambridge Avenue culvert.
No news there, I forget when they're gonna start that, I guess sometime, this is limited, January 1st would be the first thing to do it because of the stream, it's in the stream, in a tributary to the Wyomissing Creek.
11, admin and police department needs study.
Bill Meister is working on getting me the cost proposal for the now new alternative option to add a small addition to the PD and a small addition to Borough Hall, just for cost comparison purposes. It's also come to our attention that Mike Sherbanek, owner of what is now the former Inn at Reading site, has asked if we're interested in purchasing land at the site for use for a new facility. In a very brief conversation with him, just trying to gauge what he would be asking price, and it sounds like probably 1 to 1.5 million per acre. On top of, we would then need to purchase capacity in our pump station for upgrades for our own use. So, wanted to bring that to your attention, but my guess is between the cost of both of those things, and we haven't even constructed anything yet, that's probably not the best option.
We have a timeline for Bill Meister.
I would expect within the next 2 to 3 weeks. He was on vacation shortly after we met with him, so.
Has he been on vacation for 6 months since this started?
No, we had a meeting with him 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? Which we had the numbers, we had the numbers that we needed, and then there was a little bit of a unusual request that was kind of thrown in last minute, which is what he's now working on, that was not part of the original plan.
Let's see what we can do about asking Bill to have something in time that the subcommittee can meet and then report back to this committee, at the next meeting.
So before the September infrastructure meeting?
Yeah. And given the subcommittee enough time to just discuss it also.
Do we have to take any action on the defective HVAC pipe?
No. No, I just really wanted to bring that to your attention,
Seems like your heart.
that, you know, those of you that may have been in the administrative area recently to use the bathroom or something similar are probably wondering why all the ceiling tiles are out above the tax collector's office. It's because a few weeks ago we noticed there was a water leak, and after looking into that further, it was determined the HVAC pipe that is above that space is defective. It's also wrapped in asbestos, so that needs to be taken out to the tune of $8,000 effectively. So,
That includes the asbestos removal.
that's just an FYI that, you know, again, things continue to crop up in this building.
Okay, item 12, Wyomissing Public Works Garage Project, we have a couple of motions on payment applications. Payment application number 9 from Bolton.
$111,947.41.
Thank you, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Goes to council for approval. There's also a payment application number 3 for Garden Spot Electric, I see that one here. That's for is it 180,
No, 160,
161, 732, 22?
yes.
Is there a motion for, recommendation for Borough Council, pay that?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None, ayes have it, goes to Borough Council, and we have to write a check. It looks like the Berkey construction contract has to be extended to $10,000 a month. Could you fill us in a little bit on that?
We pay them $10,000 a month for construction management,
Right.
basically, and they're doing a great job. I'm not sure of the original contract amount, but
It was 12 months.
12 months, and we just need to get it through December, because we'll need them through December.
So when would the August payment?
We're reaching the $120,000 threshold with August's payment.
Okay, so September through December is
Yeah.
An extra 40,000.
extra 40 grand. Is that something that,
It counts towards the grant reimbursement.
okay.
How much did you get for that pump?
15.
Not enough. Sell 3 more of them. We need a motion to approve, recommending to council to extend the contract with Berkey Construction for construction management of the Public Works project through December 2024 at a cost of $10,000 per month. Is there a motion?
Go ahead, Woody. Steve won't yell at you.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, ayes have it. Michelle, what do you have in mind with ribbon cutting?
I didn't really have anything in mind, but I thought since we had a ribbon cutting for the groundbreaking, we might want to have something for the final product.
I would assume we would be ready for something like that October.
Good.
Could we have the actual infrastructure meeting over there as well?
Probably could.
Are you gonna be tight on parking? No, I guess not with the new lot.
No, it would be all right, I think. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, that would be an excellent idea.
We have to advertise them.
Yeah. I would say let's do that in November just to be safe since infrastructure is middle of the month.
All right.
Okay. Item 13, Stonehouse Park project. Contract was awarded, I know they started some work.
Yep.
There's a, application number 1.
78,545.66.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none, ayes have it, goes to council for payment. Parkland study.
Hold it, I got a question about the stone house. How come they moved the spillway from the pond, like towards the, Wyomissing Boulevard? Why did they move that spillway 20 feet?
The spillway is still the spillway. The bridge, for some reason, the design was more towards Parkside Drive North, and we moved it back another 5 feet to where it originally was, kind of thing. So it's not off center now, not much, but.
You mean, well, now the path used to go right over the bridge, and now the path's gonna.
Oh, I know what you're saying, why is it doing a whoop-de-doo there?
Yeah.
Grading.
Make it look more interesting, I guess, I don't know. But the path will follow you, go across the bridge, you come back.
Yeah,
I can't say there's a good reason.
this was not a good question.
That's
Okay, anything new in Parkland study?
And no, the final report we should receive by the end of the month. We did get the draft, and that was shared with the Park and Shade Commission. Comments were due back to Flora Teeter by August 9th.
So that's moving ahead.
Yes.
And Jim, anything in the lead rule update?
Yes, we're getting close to our inventory being complete, has to be submitted in October. And at this point, we, out of roughly 2,400 connections to our water system, 833, we cannot prove they are non-lead because we just don't have enough historical information. So it's roughly a third. 2/3, we can confirm that they're not lead, 1/3 we can't. From what I understand from NTEC, who's helping us out with this, is we're in better condition than Shillington or West Reading, which made me feel pretty good. These 833 people are gonna have to get this letter, which is gonna cause a lot of people agita, like all DEP letters, basically saying, we don't know what your line is made of. It may be lead, and we're just letting you know. What comes after that public notification letter, nobody is clear at this point. I would hope, given another year of time into next year, we can whittle that 833 down in half with a little bit more investigation. Some things take some boots on the ground to investigate.
Who sends that letter? DEP?
We will send it. They can give us some assistance at a cost, but I need to talk to her more to see if we need them or not for that letter. This is a template provided by the DEP.
So do you have a gut feeling about how much lead's out there?
I can tell you the lead, if there's 1 or 2 out there, I'd be amazed. It's just that we can't document that they're not.
Gotcha. Guess you can't put that in a letter.
And then, just out of curiosity, how would they would have to actually excavate and photograph the pipe?
It's always a possibility. We got lucky over in Berkshire, and Berkshire Heights was a big area of unknowns. But for some reason, when they were building out Berkshire Heights, I don't know how many meter pits, or 20, maybe 20 meter pits, as opposed to the meter being in the basement. They're in small meter pits behind the curb line, and you can get in there and look and say, that's copper there in the meter pit, and wrote letters to get into people's houses, got in their house, and there's copper coming through the wall. So if you can identify those 2 points, it makes it clean, or known non-lead. But if you don't have a meter pit to see it at the curb line, then it makes it a little more difficult. Now you don't have two points of reference, and we may have to dig those up and look. Yeah.
Who does the digging?
And
How far are they
whose
down?
expense?
Unfunded mandate.
How far down are they? Below the freeze line?
4 feet,
4.
typically.
Great. Thanks for the update, appreciate it. We need to get that on the website too, as soon as we get closer to that, the letter going out. 16 stormwater as a capital item, I'm not sure.
I'm just floating this as a balloon. I wish Steve were here for this one. But we always do capital projects with water and sewer to keep our utilities operating and do a good job of that. We do have a lot of galvanized storm sewer pipe that I know the bottom is rotten out of the pipe just due to salt and corrosion. Right now, we just wait for a failure and then we fix it. I didn't know if the committee would be interested in putting annual money towards that, some TV work, some replacement work, just for storm sewers, as we do with water or sanitary sewer. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think it sounds prudent, but just a question of cost.
If we can identify something ahead of time.
I can tell you 10 places where I know there's storm sewer pipe with no bottom in it. Been that way for a while, doesn't cause us any issues, but at some point it will.
Do you know how many linear feet of stormwater pipe there is?
I don't. I really have to research that.
Well, I think that actually makes sense, because we can anticipate costs.
And we could start with what any dollar figure you'd like. If you want to say it's the sewer, we usually throw 400,000 at it. The water usually 200 to 300,000. We could start with a smaller number than that and just see how it goes for a few years.
Where do you throw that in your budget
Right.
I think
proposal for this?
doing the assessment would probably be the first thing.
Yeah, I think TV work would be the first step, yes.
Yeah, that needs to go in the budget for the money. 17, split rail fence in the parkland.
This is really pending, I think, for Park and Shade to
Well,
further,
we deferred it until after the parkland study comes in.
yeah,
Okay.
same with the next item.
So it's, you don't even have to do anything, do it.
It's already been taken.
Yeah. 18 wildflower area in the parklands, we discussed this. That temporary area across from, where they're putting in the sewer line now is the area we're talking about. And then there's an area between the parking lot and the building that I can't remember who occupies. So we'll see how that goes.
But I think Park and Shade approved trying to put a small one in off the parking lot.
Right.
But this one, we don't want to happen because that area, once that staging, that construction area is gone, that is where all the porcelain line is, right?
Right.
Correct.
I
So you
remember
got,
telling
yeah,
you.
that's all
Not the
gotta
only
be
place, but it's the
eradicated
main place.
before,
Yeah.
which will take a while before we even think about putting
Okay,
off
so
lines
that-
there.
So that can be.
That's tabled for a
Yeah.
while.
19, median island on Wyomissing Boulevard at Atonement.
That's pending until September, October, when the Girl Scouts would come back.
Okay. 20, Centennial Circle, installation of watering system. I'm not familiar with it.
Greg's been working on this, so I'll let him speak to it.
What's up, Greg?
Well, there was talk of how the circle look, and flowers, and part of the problem is irrigation. And we came up with putting irrigation in each dog bone, and the circle has water. So we just need the irrigation. Each dog bone, we need to tap the main and bring up the water. So that's when we need to do that,
Sure. Yeah.
and that would be in-house.
Okay. Ron has a question.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question. Are we now allowing, other signs on the median on Wyomissing Boulevard? Because now there's another sign for a barbecue coming up, so pretty soon it's gonna be like 8 signs.
Wait, this is just the circle.
We're just on that circle.
They was talking about the median island.
Talk about the median island across from Atonement that we talked about, that was painted because we can't grow anything. Now it's growing another sign on that area, and maybe another sign. Can we stop at one sign, or can we put it just whoever wants to put a sign there can do that?
Somebody should be allowed to put a sign there separately.
Who's putting the signs there?
Somebody that's.
The only thing I can, off the top of my head, might be Lions.
The Lions
or
Club, who
Rotary.
we've
Or
historically,
Rotary, I think it is.
yeah, we've always allowed them to
That's
do
always
that.
been,
That's the only thing.
That's getting there.
More the merrier.
Sign of the times.
Uh-huh.
The Centennial Circle,
That's what we
approximate
were,
cost to run the water lines out to the dog bones, $7,500 to $10,000. I'm sure that Steve will find some money to cover that. Is there a motion? You want to go to finance? I guess we should have it go to finance.
Can I ask, how are they watering them now?
They go out and there's a circle that, we have a water hookup, so
Right.
they'll use a hose and water it.
And go,
But that, like this year was bad with the heat, we had that dry heat for a little while there. So if you start watering in the middle of the day, that's no good. So
Yeah,
they were
no,
coming
you can't
in,
do that.
you know, either really early or coming in later to, you know, set up sprinklers and stuff. And the dog bones, we have portable tanks that they put in the trucks, fill them up and go out and do that. So it's a lot of time with guys standing there watering stuff.
I mean, what, I don't know exactly what we have planted there, but if we have native species, it can handle the drought and
It
it
gets-
will need a lot less water.
It just gets so dry there.
Aren't they
Yeah.
planted, they're annuals there, aren't they?
Yeah, if they're annuals, they're gonna need to be watered like.
No, they're not.
They're perennials.
Are they perennials?
Yeah.
It
All
was,
of
I can't think of what's out there.
the
Yeah,
dog bones
everything
were,
that's there.
the dog bones were replanted about 3 years ago. A member of the planning commission, who's a registered landscape architect, came up with a revised plan that went through multiple committees for approval. So what is out there now is what he suggested.
Good.
And yes, Jen, with the focus on natives.
But like, I mean, is this $10,000 saving us money?
Over
Yeah.
time,
It'll
with
save
labor
you,
costs.
it'll save you in labor
Labor, yeah, I just didn't know how much labor it
and
was for that.
plants that aren't surviving.
Overtime, Jen.
Okay.
Overtime.
If you add the irrigation, then it'll always be pretty, because it's gonna be timed, and every day the water will come up and water flowers, so that's perfect.
Just like the.
And we're doing it in-house, so we are
Yeah.
saving some money.
So we're putting in actual sprinkler systems?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
because I water my flowers, and they grow all summer. Why? Because I didn't have a system, but I had a hose and I watered. It worked.
Where'd you get that hose?
I don't know.
I think your
Home
time's
Depot or
running.
something.
Do we need to go to finance on that?
Yes, because it's not budgeted.
Right, it's on budget, so is there a motion to send that to?
So move it to finance.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, ayes have it. Another item for, Mr. Brunner. 21, food truck regulations.
I added this to the agenda because I get questions all the time, and I'm sure Nick, you probably now started getting them, about businesses or private property owners that are having a party, or in the case of businesses, it's employee appreciation events, and they want to bring a food truck in. And we've always been very strict on our food truck regulations. I think the last time I brought this to infrastructure was probably 2017, 2018. And the position taken at the time with a different fire chief, a different fire commissioner, so to speak, and different makeup of the committee was they were still staunchly opposed to food trucks. They thought they were a safety issue. I know West Riding welcomes them with open arms. They actually have a food truck event. And I know that most people are still doing this even though they're told that they shouldn't be. So do we want to look at maybe relaxing our food truck regulations a little bit to allow them under whatever circumstances this committee and council deems fit?
I think we should.
Yeah, as long as they follow our guidelines, which are
far more
It's like,
common.
it's very common, it's very beneficial,
Yeah.
as long as they get a permit.
So that's just to give Chris and I some guidelines for drafting something. What besides getting a permit do you wanna see?
We have to have some health.
Or do you want them to be able to go out there every day or only for special events?
Yeah. Do you wanna limit them to certain areas of the borough, special events?
Yeah.
My stepson was in a Pittsburgh suburb, and particularly during the pandemic, they would have a different food truck every Friday.
Well, I mean, we're gonna define that in the ordinance. We need to write an ordinance. That's,
You could go out and buy for dinner, variety.
I think we need to see what the health department,
so we already regulate,
That wasn't a-
there is no health department. They don't regulate these. But we have in, I think it's our public health and safety ordinance, we already have regulations for itinerant and temporary vendors, effectively food trucks. We're just very, very restrictive on where and what they can do, to the point that it makes no sense for them to set up here. So the regulations are actually baked in there that I think, Chris, we could use as a starting point for, like, they have to provide trash receptacles, they have to do so many things if they're, you know, selling food to the public in whatever area. So I think we could use it as a starting point and then add to it.
I would think also, if NFPA doesn't, I'm sure there's something under fire code as to securing those propane tanks appropriately in, other, you know, fire extinguisher regulations. So Ethan should really get on top of that.
Are we talking about Mr. Softy bringing the bell?
So say, yeah, how do you feel about the ice cream
Are we
truck?
talking about, you don't know Albie's bringing his pizza truck in?
All of the above. All of the above.
But it wouldn't
you're
be
saying
something you do it
special
every day.
occasion.
Yeah.
No, I understand, but if the ice cream guy comes down the street, so we need to have regulations for all these trucks.
Yes.
Whether they're for Jan's party or just selling ice cream.
If you have a block party and have a couple trucks there and they're there for special occasion stuff, maybe the borough will do
So
something.
do we already have that?
The pool will do
ordinance
something.
or not?
So that's the irony. Fred is currently we're exempt from our own regulations. We do allow food trucks when they're part of a borough-sponsored nonprofit event.
Okay.
So,
So just, have everybody else plus that. It's not an ordinance.
I mean, they seem to be a big thing nowadays, all everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so let's get caught up with the
Yeah.
reality, I'd like a little bit. All right, is that enough, we really need a motion to have,
Yeah, I want a motion.
okay,
So moved.
okay.
Second.
The motion recommending council authorize borough solicitor to prepare a
One more
draft
to keep
ordinance to amend chapter 10, section 102, and any other appropriate law or regulation of the borough to permit food trucks to operate in the borough under limited conditions as the infrastructure committee deems appropriate. Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it. Lastly, 22, policy for use of borough hall by elected and appointed officials.
So what brought this up, if I may ask?
This was brought up by I don't even know the request, how it would work. There was a member of an elected official and a private citizen, taxpayer, requested to use the library at Borough Hall for a meeting, which extended for 2 hours. And it was unofficial borough business, so I am told. At what time they asked Melissa to make a copy of something and then withdrew their request. So the borough hall is for official borough business. It is not to have a meeting to discuss your last trip, you know, or anything else other than borough business.
So why do we need an ordinance for that or whatever?
Well, because it became,
Somebody wants to use a room and they're not
It's just a
authorized to
policy.
use it.
it became a
Say,
topic of discussion.
It's just a policy, it's a policy.
John, to answer your question,
I'm trying to be diplomatic.
respectfully, if I have to tell a council member no, I want to point to a policy that the rest of council approved, saying that's what's giving me the authority to tell an elected or appointed official that's not an employee they can't do something.
The receptionist was, you know, she didn't know what to do because an elected official came to her and said, I want to use the library room. And it's like, who was she to say no to an elected official? And it kind of put her in a precarious position.
To clarify, I would like to add one item to this policy that I've added to my template, but was not part of what you got, and that's to add clarification that meetings may only be scheduled during the hours that Borough Hall is open to the public.
Well, or when there's a meeting.
Well, that would be kinda hard to do if they're not,
We've had meetings with public business, other boroughs closed,
correct,
and we've retreated there.
correct, But
But
if
that-
we're having a public meeting in another room and no other staff is here, but we're still open to the public, it would be kinda hard to keep an eye or help out if someone is meeting in another room.
I was just thinking that, maybe the zoning hearing board would want to,
Oh, yeah, but I would take them in, actually, they kick everyone out and everybody waits in the vestibule,
well,
but,
I'm just saying as an example. I'm not, that may be too restrictive,
I think that you need to add a restriction, which is it's during normal business hours. I don't think we want somebody to book a room from 7 to 10 p.m.
I completely understand that. I'm just thinking that there might be a use that would be by borough or borough officials. When the borough hall's closed, but we have a meeting going on, where you'd go into executive session, for example, and instead of kicking everybody out, you go into that room, that would violate that policy, that's all I'm saying. We don't do it that way, but.
Well, no, it's in there, it has to be for official borough business
Yeah.
only, so, so what happened before can't happen again. And if somebody wants to have to discuss borough business, you would think would be more than one individual
Right.
present at that meeting.
Right.
So,
So I have no problem with this, I think it makes perfect common sense. There's a lot of other places to meet. If you wanna have another meeting with someone, so.
So didn't this person contact you as president of council to
no,
give
sir.
your blessing? Yes, did it? He or she did?
No, actually, I heard about it from a very concerned borough employee.
Right,
Okay,
you wanna put the employee in a bad position.
That's right.
I get it.
Right, so it was me, I'm guilty as charged. I called here in the morning to ask if there was anyone using the library. I would like to have a meeting for an hour or so. The receptionist said, I don't know, let me check the book. The book was checked. She said, no, there's no one going to be in. I said, okay, I'll be in around 9. Thank you very much. No problem. Came in, had a meeting, didn't have my stopwatch. Over an hour, not specifically borough business, but that seemed to be an intrusive question that had nothing to do with whether I could use the meeting for an hour. It became an issue because of the circumstances surrounding the meeting. And it got to the point where the person that gave me permission, and I'm smart enough to know, don't just do this stuff, he asked if it was okay. There was none of these things in place when I was mayor or ever since. So, and I was not going to skiff that it was secret compartmentalized information. It was a meeting for an hour, and my house is a mess. I have a 160-pound dog, and thought that this would be okay. So I did it. Then, unbeknownst to me, the person at the desk was not authorized to open the book and tell me that it was available or that you can't use the book. And everybody was in the office except one person. Saw him, talked to him, said, hi, how are you? Nobody said, shoot. So it just went on. Then there was a inquisition about what was it all about? Who were you meeting with? Why were you meeting? It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm a member of borough council, I wanted to use the library for an hour. I've done that everywhere I've ever worked. If I work there and I want to use the building and it's okay, I use the building. Nobody says, what are you talking about? What are you doing? It's either yes or no. This policy, I don't care. When I have a policy, that's great. But making it up after the fact because of some potential, whatever the issue is, I'm not sure. So if you wanna have an ordinance or a resolution, that's great, have one, no problem. The way this was handled was totally inappropriate, insulting, to say the least. That's it. So I'm good with it, I don't care. I wouldn't come in if I couldn't, I would just come in one way or another, whether you like it or not. So,
Well,
it's all over.
without getting, as we got into it, I said, you know, there's certainly many, you know, alternative places to meet other than, the Borough Hall. We have two basic, rooms in Borough Hall to meet, and if it's being tied up with non-municipal business, then that's one less room that the employees have to conduct official borough business in. You have the library, you could request that. You have each other's homes. Chain the dog up, I don't.
Yeah, I don't wanna get into that.
No, I don't
I've used the
either, Ron.
library-
You and I talked at
I've
great
used the
lengths.
library, I've used the library in this borough for 25 years. I've used the police department in this borough for 25 years, none of which had anything to do with terrorists or baseball meetings or something else in those places. And there were never issues related to anything like this. So it's a one-off, maybe it shouldn't happen, but in retrospect, okay, if that's what we wanna do. I mean, nobody in the library said you can't be here, nobody in the fire department said you couldn't be here, but to make it look like you should know better when you come in here, it's like, there's really no reason to have that be the starting point. You should never have been here. That's not the problem. If you wanted to do it, that's great. You got it, it's on the books, we're done.
Okay, need a motion to approve, table, or deny, recommending council approve this policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We consider amendments so that it's, the meetings can only be conducted during office.
Yes.
Yeah, I amend that.
Okay, I have a second. Subject to that change. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it. That'll come up for September council meeting approval. It is now 1:37, and the committee is adjourned by.
I have an objection of Sunshine Act. You didn't go to the old business or
Put it in the
everything.
paper and let us know.
I have an objection on Sunshine Act. May I please?
Here.
Mr. Council?
It's over. Meeting's over.
I waited patiently until the end. I don't think that we have the right to deny an objection on Sunshine Act.
What's your objection?
My objection is that under the Sunshine Act, every citizen has the right for public comment. Mr. Krytoyarski was denied his time because of technical issues of the borough. And the chairman was incredibly rude with him. Incredibly. Which only speaks to the discrimination we've seen here. The man had his 5 minutes. Michelle doodled with that thing, which she confirmed in email that it works. It's not our problem that it doesn't work here or it worked in her office. Who cares? She confirmed it works. It was supposed to be on the screen. She doodled with the thing for 2-3 minutes, and then he was cut off. Why? And in the most incredible, rude manner. Why are we treated like this here? You have defended Sunshine Act violations so many times. I need an answer from you.
Your objection has been noted, and I would ask the secretary to include it in the minutes of this meeting, that an objection was raised.
What's the recourse? What's our what can we do? Because this never ends.
My opinion is it was not a violation of sunshine law today.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
But I appreciate that you said this on camera, that you don't believe that was a sunshine violation.
Michelle, can we make sure we all get copies of those meetings?
And to clarify, both Melissa and I were able to open it on Friday from our computers.
It doesn't matter. We need it here, not on your computer.
I am remoted into my desktop.
It's, I don't know. You need to check it. You asked for 3 days. You asked for 3 days with the reason that you need to process
I'm
it.
not-
Just run it.